We are trying to scale up as an organization. We are trying to innovate, and we are also trying to transform, as an organization. All of those three things are happening. Innovation is right at the core of our culture, and that is determined and driven by three tenets. The first one is that of learnability and learning. So always be learning is our key motto. That's an important one. The second is collaborative experimentation, which is very important thing for us. We live in a world, where there are new technologies, and we want to make sure that expertise is neither overrated nor underrated. And we want people to experiment, fail fast, fall fast, get up and run.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
We're going to be talking about empowering innovation. What does it take to create a culture who innovates, who pushes the boundaries, who is okay with failure? Empowering innovation in today's market isn't just for those technology companies, even though today's guest is a technology company. It's for everyone. So hopefully you'll tune in today with a perspective of how do I get more innovation out of our culture and out of our workers and out of our team. Empowering innovation isn't just an afterthought. It is a way of operating inside the company. You'll see that today with our special guest. We have Shashank Dubey, and it is Tredence is the company. They are data scientists. They are really about the last mile of data. And what that really means is bridging the gap between insight and action. He explains what that is inside of this. What I really want you to focus on is how could you raise the level of innovation in your company? Empowering innovation means that you put down exactly what you want your employees to do. You share with them the principles and the tenets of that growth. Some of them are like always be learning, and it's okay to fail, and really moving fast. A lot of these things will help you understand what innovation is. If you're not okay with failure, you're definitely not okay with innovation, because it takes a lot of failure to reach real innovation. Anything that's been built, anything that's been created, this camera that I'm looking into, this microphone that's right here, this computer is an evolution of innovation. And it took a culture of innovation to create that. And I encourage you to look at what you're doing inside your company to see what you can do to raise your level of empowering innovation. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm a CEO coach. We do executive coaching. We do leadership development for managers, and in service of helping companies grow, helping companies evolve. And we really love what we're doing. If we can help you in any way, we'd love to do that. Now, I get that you probably don't know me that well, and you want to dip your toe in to the work that we do. Well, if you want to do that, we encourage you to go to training.coreelevation.com. That's our upcoming training workshop. It's absolutely free. It will help you stop being the bottleneck of your own company, create a company that can grow and thrive without you. All that to be said, you'll unlock the 5 things that are standing in your way, and you'll actually get the path to building a company where you're not the bottleneck, and it really is pushing you forward. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, you've got to think of us, and we're happy to help you. If you're curious about that training, go to training.coreelevation.com. Now, here's the interview with Shashank. Shashank, how are you?
Good, Gene. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. We are going to have a great conversation about empowering innovation. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your company. So tell us about Tredence.
Yep, Gene, first of all, thank you for inviting me into your podcast. Heard a lot of great things about you, what you have done in the tough conversations. The art of tough conversations is quite inspiring. So keep doing all the great work. So with that, let me jump right in. We started Tredence about 12 years back. This was in 2013. It actually started from my living room back in Bangalore. But prior to that, I was working in Silicon Valley, Bay Area, and that is where we saw a need. And the need was solving the last mile in data science and analytics. Now, you would ask what the last mile is. Simply put, the last mile is the gap between insights and action. And just a quick elaboration of that. We can crunch all the data we want. We can create nice insights. We can create solid PowerPoints, and you can present that in great boardrooms. By doing that, the consultants get their cash, they get their check, they make the money, but the business owner at the other end doesn't really get rewarded till those insights get implemented at scale and the value realization happens. And in our experience, that is where the biggest value destruction happens. And we started Tredence Gene to bridge the gap between insight to action so that the value expectation that the enterprise have from business analytics and data science and AI, it gets realized on the ground.
I love that. I told you before we cut the recorder on, I think data is sexy.
Yes.
Maybe not everyone feels the same, but I feel like it tells stories. It
Yeah.
provides an explanation for things, and data can be manipulated and for some people and whatnot, but it really is a powerful force. And when you do it right, my follow-up question behind this is, with the emergence of AI, I'm really curious, how is your company innovating and leveraging AI today?
Yeah, Gene, AI is at the core, of what we do. See, the transition from business analytics, it's statistics to machine learning to AI is actually quite seamless. And as we go about solving some of the most complex business problems, more often than not, it is a combination of traditional machine learning and AI, right? And we go about leveraging AI to solve problems across supply chain, marketing, customer experience, pricing, operations, and so on and so forth. So for us, AI as well as statistical machine learning is a core to what we do. And just one last thing, there is a lot of talk and hype about AI, but do know that majority of enterprise business problems still need statistics and machine learning, which is not really AI. It's a combination where the magic really happens. And that's what we do.
And I get the fact that we need the combination, but my curiosity in this is AI does some things that humans still can't do.
Yep.
Or, well, and vice versa. There's some things that humans do that AI can't do. How are you guys bridging that gap?
Yeah, so see, that's an interesting one, and I can give you maybe an example of how that works on the ground. So let's say, so you said you're going to Europe, right? Let's imagine a scene in Europe. Let's say you are in Lisbon, right? And and you're working in Lisbon, and your job is to go out and let's say go out of the stores and take orders from the stores, right? Now that's a very time consuming task, right? You need to be on the road, right? And taking the orders, ensuring the supply happens and all of that. The question is that how would you know what are the right stores you want to reach out to maximize your order offtake, right? And that is where AI comes in, because AI would look at thousands of variables, including the past store performance, the weather, the traffic conditions, right? As well as the inventory at the store, to give a very smart recommendation to the sales manager or the sales rep as he or she goes out on the ground, right, and takes those orders. We implemented this solution about 2 years back, and what it has resulted in, and that's very touching. I met some of those sales reps when I was in Lisbon, and they told me that thanks to the solution, they are able to make more money with less effort. And it is quite intuitive to them, right? And they feel safe and happy that they're able to be more productive to their organizations and to their own lives.
Let's dive into this, because you didn't get here just because of you're the only one. In fact, you have over 3,600 employees, give or take.
Yep.
You've had building a really big business, but yet you're innovating at the same time. So how is it that you empower innovation across your company?
Yeah, see, that's a multi-billion-dollar question. We are trying to do three things at the same time. We are trying to scale up as an organization. We are trying to innovate, and we are also trying to transform, as an organization. So all of those three things are happening. Innovation is right at the core of our culture, and that is determined and driven by three tenets. The first one is that of learnability and learning. So always be learning is our key motto. That's an important one. The second is collaborative experimentation, which is very important thing for us. We live in a world, where there are new technologies, and we want to make sure that expertise is neither overrated nor underrated. And we want our people to experiment, fail fast, fall fast, get up and run. And the last thing is, becoming or bringing in the spirit of entrepreneurship. We always say as founders that we are, three founders in Tredence, but we have 3,600 entrepreneurs, right? And having those entrepreneurs and giving them the freedom to learn, experiment, fail, and fly, right, is how we drive innovation.
I'm smiling over here because I've been doing the podcast for 10 plus years. About 5 years ago, maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, actually, I had a couple of clients make the Inc. 5000 list for the first time. So before that, I was working with a lot of smaller companies. Today, a lot of my companies are, 20 million to 100 million and bigger. But one of the things that came out was we don't want our people to take responsibility. We want them to take ownership.
Yep.
And if you really dig into that ownership thing, we want that entrepreneur spirit to be alive in our company, because that's what the founders saw made them successful, their drive, their hunger, and they wanted employees that were like that. Is that similar to the way you feel about your entrepreneurship?
Yeah, 100%. And see, there are again three very simple tenets, right, with which we three founders have built the company. Number one is fun, which is very visible. You can feel it. We want to have fun while we're building the company. That is very important. Building a company is a very, very tough job, right? Becomes inhuman sometimes, but you need to keep going. The fun is important. The second aspect is money, right? Of course, a lot of things happen in life, right, when you have those dollars in the bank. So money becomes important. However, the magic is in the third tenet, which most people either ignore or underestimate, which is meaning. And that is the why of what we're trying to build. And I think, for the younger generation, right, people who have been born into a lot more plenty than we have been, Gene, when we were kids, right? I think meaning is a very, very essential component, and oftentimes is more important than money and fun, So this fun, money, meaning combination, right, is absolutely critical for us to ensure that feeling of entrepreneur and having the owner and founder mindset, right, is intact for our 3,600 plus growing employees.
Now, I brought up the concept of ownership, and I thought I'd unpack that for you. I have done a lot of studies with fast growth companies. And in fact, a few years ago, I did a really deep work with 53 CEOs. And what came out of it was we don't want our employees to take responsibility. We want them to take ownership. As I began to dig deeper, there were 6 core principles that really were a part of that. I'm going to share with you 2 of them today. If you want the other 4, send me an email, and I'm happy to share them with you. The first one's mission. When you have a mission that people are aligned to, they feel like owners. They feel like they're a part of something meaningful. That's very important. If they're not a part of the mission, they just have a job, they don't feel like owners. And the second one I'll share with you out of 6 is transparency. Transparency is just an incredible force inside of this. Most people are too afraid to leverage it. They're too afraid to share. They're too afraid to tell people what the real numbers are and what they mean so that they can make decisions. I have seen over and over and over the power of transparency in my own life, the power and transparency with my clients. And I urge you to really think about where your transparency line is, which is what you deem okay to share and not okay to share. And make it as remarkable as possible, because that will get a different kind of employee to show up when they feel that you're being really transparent with them. They will feel like owners. Back to Shashank. I'm glad you say that. And I feel that in my own journey as an entrepreneur. I've chased money and freedom and wasn't quite as happy as when I created meaning in my work.
Yeah.
And I think the people that I've invited with me on this journey, my employees, are connected to the meaning of the work just as much as they are anything else.
Yep.
Because it's meaningful. So back to empowering innovation. If we scanned across your organization, is there 1 or 2 aspects of innovation that you could share with us that make it work for you guys to continue to grow at the scale you have?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, see, one thing, as I said earlier, we are 3 founders, but we have 3,600 entrepreneurs. We have actually kind of institutionalized this thinking in a certain practice, a very specific practice, wherein we have people in the front line, which is in the market, as well as people who are sitting in India, right? And each one of them, right, have a freedom to come up with an idea, right, with a self-formed team and pitch that idea in a Shark Tank type setup. And if that idea goes through that process, right, we end up funding that. We in fact had a hackathon uh, just 3 months back, from where we identified 4 or 5 different ideas, right? And we had the teams, which is both the Tredence team and some external folks who are coming in, right, getting funded to build that idea out. And you would be amazed that none of these people, the Tredentians, right, our fellow founders, right, it's not that they're not doing their 8, 9, 10 hour job. They're actually doing that, right? But the power, right, of meaning is so profound that they're able to take time out, right, and show us progress on their own ideas, right, because this is their own thing, right? So that is one thing we are doing. The second also is, so that is, creating an idea for the outside market and things like that. We also have a very decentralized model of innovation, Gene. So as and when we have, some innovations, I'll give you one example of that. So we had, one of our Tredentians, right, who ended up, creating a framework of prompting, right, for a very specific use case, right, across, multiple large language models, right? And that framework, and this guy evolved it over 6 months, right? And this framework became so powerful that what would take, like, let's say 5 developers 6 months to develop, right? Thanks to the prompting framework that this gentleman has made, we could do the same thing in about 2 months, right, with 2 developers, right? We took this prompting framework, we put this person in charge, and now this person is running internally to evangelize and and ensure that every other developer has access to the prompting framework. So I think a lot of innovation driven by internal incentives as well as external incentives is how we drive innovation. One last thing, right? I think it's also important for us to understand that most of our employees are not don't need to be bounded within the boundaries of Tredence, right? Their existence is beyond the boundaries of Tredence. And I think the earlier we accept, acknowledge, and respect that, right, you will see more motivation and more innovation from them.
I love this. Like both of them, the Shark Tank style innovation, and then you've got this decentralized model. I'm glad I had a chance to connect with you and go a little bit deeper with this. When you have this culture that's learning all the time, is there anything that you do to reinforce that? I mean, do you bonus people for learning? How do you encourage them to be in that continuous learning phase?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there are multiple things we do. We of course have this thing called you learn we pay program, right? And that is actually quite famous. And every individual has a certain budget, in a quarter and in a year, right? And they can do any whatever courses they want, get the books they want to read, any specialization they want to do, all of those things, right? Also, we have several forums, right, where as and when we read books, right, we go about discussing and brainstorming in those forums. Like right now I'm reading this book Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari, right? It's a fantastic book about information theory and all that, and we are actively discussing and deliberating and debating, right, in our book channels, internal book channels and brainstorming channels that we have out there, right? So I think a lot of that learning is that. Now that's one part, right? This like learning through courses and all of that. We also have this thing called experiential learning, right, where we have had tie-ups, right, with the institutions, right, as well as entrepreneurs, and motivational leaders like yourself, right, to create those real life experiences, right, so that as they learn while they do, right. So there are multiple of those learning things that we are trying to do over there. And I think, see, our philosophy is that you learn in 3 different modes largely, right? You learn by reading. The next better form of learning is by doing, and the highest form of learning is by teaching, right? And because the teacher learns the most what you teach, right?
Yeah.
We enable all of those 3 things in Tredence.
Now we've been talking about learning and learning on the job. You learn, we pay. I love that. I will say that there's a lot of companies are free to give the hard skills of learning, whether it be some type of a program certificate or now probably AI training and whatnot. That is important. I'm curious, are you giving your employees a chance to grow their soft skills, their communication, their presentation, maybe it's their listening, maybe it's coaching skills as they are managers moving into leadership mode, and they're really expected to develop a bunch of leaders around them. Now, these soft skills are very, very important in the business, especially in today's technology area. People are not going to go away. Some jobs will be lost for sure, but we'll still need people to manage, and we'll need people to lead others. It really is an important piece to company growth. I believe that, and that's where I believe the world's going. Just share that with you, and back to Shashank. I know that there's any number of things we could touch on around empowering innovation. What have we not talked about yet that you feel like is very important for others to understand of how do you create a culture that is in constant innovation mode?
Yeah, I think, see, we talked about the fun meaning and money construct, right? I think it's important to understand that the younger generation, right, the people who are graduating from the college, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year experienced folks, right? See, they have exposure to a lot more information than we had while we were growing up, right? That is both a blessing and a curse, right? As we all well know. I think precursor to learning and innovation is to help, throw in, some exciting ideas and anchors through which we can have this generation latch in and lock in, right? And that is where leaders like us play a very important role. Because listen, if you know 5% of everything, then you're essentially competing with google.com, right? And
Yeah.
there is really no value of that, right? What we want to do is to create T-shaped professionals who are deep generalists, right? Who can go deep into one area. Because unless you go deep, unless you're able to interconnect multiple disciplines, you will not be able to innovate, right? And that just needs some patience and scholarly education, right? And learning to be able to get that. And given all the distraction that we have, our biggest challenge is to how to reduce the noise and increase the signal so that we can create more T-shaped, deep generalist innovators in Tredence.
It's interesting that you say it that way, because I've read some articles about someone like Elon Musk, and he's got 2 different degrees, one in economics and another one in physics.
Yep.
And his wife has said to others, and anyone who would, I guess, listen to her, is like, that's the reason why he's such a visionary, is because he has 2 different disciplines that he can combine together and go deep into. He can be a journalist in some ways, but he can, that's one reason why he could do rockets
Yes.
as well as other things.
Yeah.
I also say this in my own, reflection of how I see the world, and the advice I gave my son who's going to college soon is, yes, finance is great school, but combine that with AI, combine it with something that is of interest to you, be really curious and go deep into all these things, because that's going to be the future, is that deep application of things, not surface level. So, Shashank, I really appreciate you being here, sharing with us, talking about empowering innovation, creating a culture with driven outcomes. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely, Gene. Thank you for having me here.
Wow, what a great interview. I love his preciseness, his energy around what does it take to build an empowering innovation inside of our company. People that are willing to learn, willing to push the boundaries and fail and learn from that failure and bring their ideas to work is something that I think is really needed in today's cultures. If you really want to excel through this AI innovation, it's not just about your knowledge, it's about how everyone collaborates together and how they push the boundaries. This is what I believe. Hopefully you believe the same thing too. If I can help in any way, please reach out to us. That free training I mentioned earlier about stopping the bottleneck of your company is at training.coreelevation.com. And again, love to help you create the kind of business of your dreams. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, we encourage. We'll see you next time.